como hemos escuchado antes, existen distintas regiones en el planeta en donde las mejoras de saneamiento son especialmente necesarias y hay especiales brechas. Hemos escuchado principalmente el sudeste asiático, la India y también África subsahariana. África subsahariana es una de las zonas donde más retos hay por resolver en materia de saneamiento. Incluso podríamos destacar también que en las últimas décadas han existido algunos retrocesos, por ejemplo, en materia de defecación al aire libre. En la actualidad hay más personas que practican la defecación al aire libre que a principios de los años 90, es decir, ha habido algunos retrocesos, principalmente, bueno, en parte por el crecimiento demográfico y porque no se han puesto toda la atención necesaria a la mejora del acceso al saneamiento. Bueno, pues para poner el foco en una de estas regiones, en África subsahariana, tenemos con nosotros a Nyanzobe Malimi. Nyanzobe tiene una amplia trayectoria en cooperación internacional en el país de Tanzania. Es referente nacional en agua y saneamiento en este país y actualmente trabaja en plan internacional en Tanzania, liderando la implementación del programa UMATA como parte de la campaña nacional de saneamiento diseñada por el gobierno de Tanzania y financiada por el Fondo Global de Saneamiento. Thank you very much, Nyanzobe. It's a pleasure for us you are here with us, sharing your vision and experience about sanitation. Thank you very much. And it's your turn.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nyanzobe Malimi, and I'm working with the Plan International Tanzania. Yeah, Plan International globally it has 80 years since it was established, and we are working in 71 countries. And for Tanzania, we started working in Tanzania since 1991, and we are looking at the right to children, and specifically for girls. I think we all know why girls. Yeah? And based on our 2015 to 2020 country strategy, we have prioritized into 5 areas. We are looking at child protection. We are also working on maternal health, and we are also working on education and the water, sanitation and hygiene, and the youth empowerment. And in all these 5 areas are well linked with the Sustainable Development Goals, Goal 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 16. So it goes without saying why sanitation has been included in children's rights and special girls' rights. It has impact on children as well as on girls. So I will be sharing experience of sanitation in Tanzania, and in order for Tanzania as a country to achieve its sanitation goals, it's working with partners as well. So I will also talk about the Water, Sanitation and Collaborative Council, WSCC, its work in Tanzania and a bit experience globally. And then I will share with you a program which is focusing on sanitation and hygiene, which is supported by WSCC. So Tanzania, as many other countries, we are committed to meet the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. And I think Maria explained a lot about the Sustainable Development Goal. We are focusing on Goal 6, which is ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. And specifically for sanitation is section target 6.2, which is looking at the adequate and equity sanitation and hygiene for all. That is ending open defecation, paying special attention to the needs of women and girls, and those in vulnerable situations. So it means that we need to ensure sanitation and hygiene services are available for everyone, and especially girls and women. And for Tanzania, we will be monitoring the progress of Goal 6.2.2 on year basis. We are meeting on year basis to look at the progress made. Usually the meetings are happening in November, December, in two ministries, the Ministry of Water and the Ministry of Health. And also we are looking at the challenges or the obstacles which has occurred in that year and what can be done to address those challenges. And also the policies. The policies favored the attainment of sanitation and hygiene goals. So I'm taking you through to the policies which are available in Tanzania. So in the pre-90s, we had a free water policy, and that one had sustainable challenges. And then we shifted to government lead service delivery. We had capacity gaps and community ownership. Those were the challenges by then. But during that time, we had also public health promotion, which was led by our first president, Malimi. The campaign was very successful, and that was the cause of making Tanzania having big number of basic sanitation. And the post-90s policy, we have a national water policy in 1991, which was addressing community and private sector participation. And in 2002, the policy was reviewed, and we are looking at, we added water laws to establish urban water and sanitation association, and the national water sector development strategy. This was developed specifically to support the water and sanitation movements in Tanzania. And also to support the National Development Vision by 2025. So we are measuring our progress. We have our methods at country level, but if you look at the Joint Monitoring Program reports, and this information is about the countries which are English speaking, which are working with the WSCC. But WSCC in its totality is working with almost 13 countries. So if you look at Tanzania specifically, the third from your right-hand side, in terms of no service, meaning that open defecation, we are at 16%. And in terms of unimproved services, we are at 63%. And in terms of limited services, we are at 4%, and in terms of safely managed services, we are at 17%. So there's a lot still need to be done. Although the open defecation percent is not very high, 16%, but we have a lot of work to do on upgrading the unimproved toilets to improve the one, because majority of people are at 63%. And in terms of financial commitment, I mentioned about the water and sanitation development program, which is now in phase 2, is where most of our funds are committed. We have estimated like 3.3 billion USD to support the sanitation in the hygiene, water sanitation in the hygiene activities. And these funds are supposed to come from the development partners and the government. But we are seeing that up to now, the commitment is only 1.6 billion USD. So there's still a big financial gap. And most of the funds are coming from development partners. There's a very little commitment from the government. So there's also issue of sustainability because a large amount of money is coming from the development partners. However, we are seeing now there's a commitment from the government, not only, although there's no big financial commitment from government, but at least we are seeing the political will is starting growing. This photo is of the current president, who was elected in October 2015. So here it was in December 2015, whereby he participated to clean Dar es Salaam, because by then we had a cholera outbreak, and we were supposed to celebrate Independence Day on 9th, but instead of having that celebration, he decided everyone to clean, to do the cleanness of our cities. So we are seeing that there are some commitments from the government regarding the sanitation. And we had a national sanitation and hygiene campaign, which started in March 2012. But the government has decided to relaunch that campaign. So the relaunching will happen this year in December. It was supposed to happen during the toilet day, but due to some reasons, we had to push to December. So the relaunching is really focusing on the political will. We want the political will. You will agree with me, if there's no political will, it's very difficult to succeed on sanitation because, for example, in Tanzania, the sanitation and hygiene is a household responsibility if you are talking about the rural areas. At least in urban areas where you have the sewerage system, there's a kind of subsidies from the government because the sewers and the treatment plants are constructed by the government. But if you are talking about the household sanitation, it's purely household responsibility. So this is the minister who is leading the campaign. And what are the reasons for having this campaign now? As I mentioned, majority of our toilets are unimproved. The 63%, which is the majority of people, are there. And thousands of children are dying of each year from preventable diseases like cholera and diarrhea. 2016, we had an outbreak of cholera almost in all the regions. And it costed the government a lot of money to treat people, to buy the chemicals for water treatment, and also to have campaigns in different regions. And in terms of poor sanitation is also a reason for stunting for children. And from the records, Tanzania is among the highest countries with stunting. So it's a problem for our under 5. And in terms of economic, it costs us almost 301 billion shillings per year because of the poor sanitation. So we have so many reasons. These are the major ones why sanitation should be prioritized and should be the government should invest in collaboration with the development partners. So I will be taking you through the Water Supply and Sanitation Collaborative Council. Why this? From the records, I think WCC is among the few organizations which are focusing on sanitation and hygiene. They have other water supply projects, but the global Global Sanitation Fund is specifically focusing on sanitation, and I will tell you the reasons why. So, in general, the organization was established in 1990s and is hosted by UNOPS, and is looking at the sustainable sanitation and hygiene for all. And the reasons why it was established, it was supporting the achievement of the Millennium Development Goal for the countries which were not able to reach the Millennium Development Goal, but now they are continuing to support for the countries to reach Sustainable Development Goal. And by then, there was inadequate funding for sanitation. Most of the programs, most of the countries were looking at water as an issue, and most of the projects, they were designed based on the water needs. If a project is for 3 years, the 3 years timeline has been established based on the water issues, water activities, how much time will take to construct the water supply facilities, but they were not considering the behavior change on sanitation and hygiene. There was also institution issues and lack of capacity. If you look at the staffing in the healthy sector, there are very, very few staff to support sanitation and hygiene movement, and is focusing on behavior change. There's no construction of infrastructure, so it's purely on behavior change, changing the mindset of people and communities and leaders on sanitation and hygiene. Yeah, so the approach is, I think this will be some sort of repetition, but I have to take you through. Yeah, the issue of equity and non-discrimination. As I mentioned, sanitation for all. Everyone should have access. People with disability, women and girls, and looking at the advocacy and the collaboration, willingness of political leaders, everyone in the government should support sanitation. So it's about leaving no one behind, looking at the needs of everyone, including the needs of women. The issue of menstrual hygiene management, we have evidence now how much girls are affected by not having good sanitation and hygiene infrastructures. Some of the girls are missing 3 to 5 days out of school because of the poor facilities in their schools. For example, the program where I'm working, we have about 195 schools. Out of those, only 53 schools have good sanitation and hygiene. So you can see that some of the girls, because of the infrastructure in their schools, they prefer to stay home during the menstruation period until they finish, and then they will come back to school. So it has impact on their education. So these are the 4 core principles which are used in WSCC in implementing sanitation and hygiene in the 13 countries. Pooled fund exclusively for sanitation. As I mentioned, that the fund is specifically for sanitation, no infrastructure. So during the implementation, we have to collaborate with other organizations which are providing water services to ensure that those areas, they have water. But for them, the funds which are collected from donors are specifically for sanitation. And national ownership, design, and implementation. In order for the WCC to come to work in a certain country, the country itself has to request for that support, meaning that they have to realize that they have sanitation and hygiene gaps, so they need support from WCC. And they also look at the community empowerment for collection behavior change. In most of the countries, we are using CLTS, community-led total sanitation. So the actions are coming from the community themselves. The willingness to change based on the shame discussed and the negative impact of poor sanitation, it has to come from the community themselves. Aim for scale and focuses on results. The behavior change approaches which we are using, it has to scale up. It should have the possibility of scaling up to other areas. So in terms of the opportunities for the WSCC to continue working in the 13 countries, there's still need for the communities to become open defecation free, and also the behavior change on menstrual hygiene management, the issue of the sanitation facilities in schools, the issue also of the mind change of our leaders on sanitation. I don't know in Madrid, but in Tanzania, we are still struggling to talk openly about menstrual issues. There's still a shame. So there's an effort to break the silence first so as we can speak openly about menstruation. Also to put the infrastructures in place for girls and women. Also to subsidy the pads. In rural areas, people cannot afford to buy the industrial pads, which are safe. So there are some initiatives to manufacture the local pads. Very simple technology to manufacture that, and we are teaching the schools, pupils and teachers how to make the local pads. In order for the WSCC to continue working in the countries, there should be a strong civil society organizations and the networks which are supporting the WSCC activities. National coordinator and the partnership network. In each country, they have selected a national coordinator who he or she overseeing the issues of sanitation and hygiene in the sector, and also they are using him or her as an advocate agent of sanitation. And to have the grassroots movements on to advocate for sanitation, and for the countries to have sector need for better M&E and knowledge management in order to work with the other agencies. So the country should have still a need of that knowledge management, and the SDG agendas provide a global focus on water, gender equity, reduction of poverty, and increasing domestic resources funding available for sanitation. So the presence of WSCC also is an entry point to advocate for the countries to allocate more resources for sanitation and hygiene. And is an opportunity also for the participation of the private sector in water and sanitation. And in terms of challenges, funding is still an issue for sanitation. Few governments have managed to set aside funds specifically for sanitation. Private sector effectiveness and the private sector finance availability has been proven in water supply, but not in sanitation. We are still struggling to involve the private sector in sanitation. We have many of them in soap provision, but not other sanitation facilities. Drought and unreasonable flooding is a challenge to the approach which we are using, the CLTS. If you apply the CLTS approach, it allows the community to start building any form of the sanitation facility, and So if there's a flood or any an environmental issue, it becomes a challenge. Division within the sector regarding approaches on sanitation, donor competitions in sanitation could undermine GSF approaches. Some of the governments in the water sector, they have different approaches, so they are not speaking the same language, and the coordination is also an issue. The issue of being recognized that a certain organization has supported a certain achievement is still an issue which is impacting the WCC work. Decentralization, devolution, and weak capacity of decentralized structure and clear division of responsibility and investment between central and federal government is still a challenge. No enough attention to build human resources, technical capacity for full cycle of sanitation, both urban and in rural areas. For example, in Tanzania, one World Health Officer is serving 4 wards. So some of the wards, they don't have the health officer to support. And in terms of the specific program, which in a local language we call it Usafi wa Mazingira Tanzania, UMATA, the program was established in 2012, and our main focus is to eliminate open defecation, improve the sanitation and hygiene at scale. We are working in 3 districts in a central part of Tanzania. And why that area was chosen is because of the low coverage of sanitation, and there was a high mortality rate. And as I mentioned, in order for the WCC to work in a country, the program has to be established by the government. So to run the program, we have a program coordination mechanism, which is under Ministry of Health, and we have a country program monitor, who is a private sector doing the monitoring and supervision of the program. So we are targeting 168 villages in the 3 districts where we are working. It's a semi-arid area, very challenging area for sanitation, but it was purposely chosen in order for the communities to benefit from the program. So in terms of our theory of change, as I mentioned, we want to eliminate open defecation. The problem is open defecation, low quality latrine, the 63%, and the poor hygiene. And our ultimate goal is to increase access to sustain, improve the sanitation and improve the hygiene. So how are we going to get there? First, we do demand creation using the CLTS, which I mentioned. And after the community been triggered and they have put plans for to improve their sanitation and hygiene, they build any form of latrine. So we are also supporting them to climb the sanitation ladder by introducing the sanitation marketing component and the microfinance component. In the microfinance component, we are realizing that not everyone is in a position to join those sanitation, the microfinance groups based on their income. So some of the vulnerable groups are being left out. So there are some initiatives on how should we include everyone to reach in order to ensure that everyone is covered. And while we are doing that, we are also looking at the issues which are affecting policy issues which are affecting the implementation of sanitation and hygiene, and present those issues in a joint water sector reviews which are happening on yearly basis. And also we are using the program as a learning hub for other programs and other regions. And also we are using the program to influence the government from the national level to the district level to invest on sanitation, as they are doing on water supply. So in terms of the implementation of the program, this is the way the program started until now. And these are some of the photos showing you where we came from, how the situation was. You can see that most of the latrine is like you are defecating in the open. They don't have privacy. They are not improved. So there's a limitation to use a toilet like this. For a woman who is for older people, it's very difficult to use the toilet like this. For pregnant women, for children under 5, as you can see, there's a sign that the hole is like becoming bigger and bigger. So the children under 5, they will not use the toilet like this. So obviously they will go to an open. And we know that even the feces of children is still dangerous to human health. So that the situation was. So the situation now has improved. We have different type of toilets, including toilets for disabled people. Some of the toilets have been built in one room to save money. You have a structure for a disabled person. At the same time, you have a structure for a normal person under the same roof. So it's very cheap instead of having different building for disabled person and a normal person. And this type of toilet can be used by children and the elders. So it can serve everyone. And some of them you can see using local made materials. Some of them people have managed to build using a bit expensive materials. And in terms of hand washing, which is also promoted, in most areas we are using tippy-tap technology, both in households and in schools. Although in schools, some of the schools, they have started upgrading their facilities using the sim tank. I didn't include the photo here, but they have started to upgrade the hand washing facilities. But in most cases, this is the affordable facility in the household level. In terms of how we operate, I think I have already mentioned, is through the communities, and we include everyone, the community and all the institutions, including schools and the health facilities, and we are working very closely with the local government authorities to ensure that there's a sustainability of our interventions. In terms of where we are, on improved latrines, we are at 24%. Our aim is to reach 33%. You'll be asking why 33% and maybe not more than that. The target was set based on the economic status of the community members where we are working. Most of them, they are very poor, so that percentage was a reasonable one to achieve. In terms of hand washing facilities, we are at 53% from 70%. But this is in terms of the hand washing facilities. We are also monitoring the use now of the facilities, evidence to use the hand washing facilities. And in the coming December, we are going to conduct the outcome survey, which will show us, apart from having the facilities, how many people are still using the facilities. And in terms of open defecation free, we are at 42%. 42%. So we have reached the 71 villages. This is by June 2017, but the number now is bigger than this. So these are the key indicators which we are monitoring. And in terms of the challenges to specifically to program, the country has developed the open defecation free protocol, but we have some challenges on the implementation of the protocol. At first, the protocol was a bit simple. Once the village is becoming ODF, the certificate was issued by the district executive director. But now the government has upgrading the protocol. The certificates now are issued by the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Health. So we have a pile of villages which are ODF, but they haven't got the certificates yet. So somehow it's demoralizing the efforts of the communities and the staff who are working in the program. Through this program, we are advocating for the local government to invest on sanitation, but it is still a challenge. Most of the costs are incurred by the program itself. So we are still advocating using different approaches. We are using the institution figuring to bring all the leaders in the villages to see the real situation of sanitation, so as they can regard sanitation is important like water or like any other sector, and being willing to invest on sanitation. And the issue of data quality, because we are also paying the data collectors who are collecting data at the grassroots level. So it's a big challenge. So if you don't pay, the quality of data is not guaranteed. So we are continuing with the capacity building to ensure that they have enough capacity, but at the same time encouraging the local government to invest, so as when the program ends, the government still has capacity to continue with the data collection and the reporting on sanitation and hygiene.
So 5 minutes.
Thank you.
5 minutes.
I'm done. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nyanzobe. I think it's clear that sanitation in Tanzania presents huge challenges, of course, and really interesting the theory of change of Umata and the strategy you are carrying out in the country. I think, well, here we have a lot of information about your work, and it's really interesting. Thank you very much.